Sanbonani, Shalom. My name is Mpumelelo. I'd like to thank you very much for your support, for watching the previous videos, for subscribing. If you have shared my videos, thank you very much. I appreciate it. I want to continue with the discussion that I had in the previous video. Are black people the cursed people? In the previous video, I think I made distinctions. I think it was a little bit messy as I listened to it. It was a little bit messy. But what I wanted to make a distinction, the point that I wanted to make was that the descendants of Noah, Shem, Ham, and Yafet, were black people. And amongst them, you had the Hamites who sits today, who occupy the land of the northern Africa, Ethiopia, Saudi Arabia, and the lands across the Nile, and the southern part of Arabia. But then you also have black people who are in the southern part, sub-Saharan regions of Africa. They are not the descendants of Ham. And how do we know that if they are not the descendants of Ham, they are the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob? How do we know that? There are many things, pointers, that indicates that these people, who are largely called the Bantu people group, they are the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. They are actually not Africans. The word African, we have adopted it because largely we don't know who we are. We got lost in time and in history, exacerbated by colonialism and oppression, who have at different times gifted us with many titles. They've called us all sorts of people. As a result, we've lost our trace. We don't know who we are. I have tried to trace my lineage. You don't get very far when you try to trace your lineage, especially when you don't make a link between yourself and peoples in the Bible. Remember that when Christianity was introduced to us, we were given an impression that there were no black people in the Bible. When we were given a portrayal of angels and Jesus and God and the disciples of Jesus, we were always given an impression that these people were white, including Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Moses, Joseph, and all children of Israel. We've always believed that they are white. Worst of all, when you look at the Jews today who are in Israel, you see white people. And therefore, there's no way that you can associate yourself with Israel, because you don't match, the criteria. You don't match even the people who call themselves Israelites or Jews today. For many years, the people from the southern part of, in South Africa, they're in the north of South Africa. They are called the Lemba group, the Lemba people. For many years, they've been saying that they are Hebrews. And nobody believed them, including the Jews in Israel had no interest in them. Nobody believed them. The Igbos in Nigeria They've always maintained that they are Israelites. Nobody believed them. Nobody had an interest. Until lately, a group of Israelites, or group of Jews, they call themselves Jews, went and took blood samples, compared them with their blood samples, and they realized that these people have similar blood types. Moreover, these people have been practicing religious worship systems which are similar to those found in Israel today. But what about this other group, the Bantu people? Most of them have assimilated to other cultures. Most of them have converted to Christianity, and therefore they are not practicing anything that is found in Israel. How do we know that they also share the same bloodline, but they also are all children of Israel? There's a difference. There's a reason why, and that reason for me is what interests me the most. You see, the Lemba, amongst the Lemba and the Igbos, you will find that there has always been among them the Levites. And there has always been among them the people who or a tribe of Judah among them, and the tribe of Levi among them. So they have continued to practice the system of worship that they knew from their forefathers, from Moses and the generations after him. So they've always known that they are Jews, irrespective of the fact that they don't look like the Jews who are in Israel. Now, I want to clarify something which has always confused me. You know, whenever I thought of the Jews, I thought of white people. Just like whenever I thought of any character in the Bible, I thought of white people. I thought Jesus was white. I thought angels were white. I thought Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Moses, and all of them, I thought they were white. It turns out, no, history was distorted. They were never white. They were never white. They were black. So the Bible, what we call the Bible, not the New Testament, the Old Testament was written actually by our forefathers, the Israelites. Now, I have really gone through some studies. I have listened to many videos, and I have been personally corrected by some brothers elsewhere and said, brother, you'd better look at the scripture and you'd better look at the customs that are found amongst your people. Trace them back to biblical practices. You will see that you have a connection with the Israelites. Now, I said to you, there's a difference between, you see, Israel was divided into two kingdoms. Israel was divided into the southern kingdom and the northern kingdom. In the southern kingdom, you had the Judeans, which eventually, during the times of Jesus, they were called the Jews. Those Judeans, those Jews, continued to practice what they then called Judaism. They continued to practice Judaism. Why? Because, firstly, Scripture confirms that Judah will always carry the torch. He will always be the one carrying the torch. He will always be the one giving light. He will be the remnant. And in the northern kingdom, you find from the first king after the kingdom, the kingdom of Israel was divided into two kingdoms. From the first king to the last king, King Jeroboam to Hoshea, there's been wickedness there. There's never been a practice of the laws of Moses. Never. King after king. That's where you find Jezebel. That's where you find King Ahab. That's where you find all these wicked kings. The first king of Israel in the northern kingdom prevented people from going to Jerusalem to worship God there. He created temples so that people, and golden calves, so that people don't go to Israel. He said to them, it's too far. But he was afraid that as soon as people go back to Israel and worship God, he will lose his kingdom. And so it continued. Over 200 years in Israel, people lost touch with God. People worshipped and practices and followed practices of the neighboring peoples. This is where you find, but I want to discuss this in detail. This is where you find most of the practices here in Africa. The worship to God has been distorted. It is mixed with many beliefs. And I want to go into details of those beliefs, which when you will realize that these could only be found in Israel. One interesting thing that I want to mention in this video is that when young people were going through the ritual of circumcision, we used to call them abakhetwa. I think they are still called abakhetwa. But we never knew what abakhetwa means. Can you think about it? The word abakhetwa means the chosen ones. It means the chosen ones. Why are they the chosen ones? We never gave it a thought. But think about it. Why would they be called the chosen ones? Think about it. Now, there are many other traditions and practices that are found in Africa, not necessarily what the Jews do in Israel or what the Lembas or the Igbos do, but a lot of practices which can be traced back to Israel. Many have been mixed, of course, with pagan practices, including a mix of Christianity and all sorts of things. But that is because we lost track of who we are. We lost our identity. We lost our lineage. And so we are going about copying the things that other people do. That is why we follow after other people's traditions. White wedding, we do it. Hollywood celebrations, we do. Guy Fawkes, we do. Valentine's, Christmas, we have lost our identity. We think we are Africans. But we don't even do what Africans do. We do all sorts of things except for what we're supposed to do. This is the reason why curses followed us. This is the reason why we were expelled from the northern kingdom largely. And I'm not saying that in the southern kingdom there was no one who came to Africa among those Jews. They were. But largely from the northern kingdom, you find the people who were expelled by God, or by their own actions, because God says, if you do not obey my commandments, the land will vomit you out because we are unclean. The land is holy and you have made it unholy. And so you will be exiled. And from exile, we started, in fact, from the northern kingdom, we started practicing alien practices, which were not given to us by God. And because we are a chosen people, you see, other nations can practice all these practices, they will not be cursed. But we are supposed to be an example to the nations. And therefore, unless we do what is right, the curses will cling on us. In the next video, I want us to discuss and break down the practices that you find here in Africa in particular. And you will see that there's a resemblance between what we do. Although we don't know why we're doing these things. We think that these are our practices, our culture, but they are not. We copied these things from other nations. We mixed the practices from the laws of Moses, or the laws that God gave Moses to give to us. We mixed those with all sorts of things because we are a lost nation. We're cursed. That's why we don't think right. That's why the things that we do don't make sense. So we need to do some introspection. We need to look at ourselves and look at the things that we do and begin to do the right things. And everything will fall into place. That's all I have today. I hope that you find this interesting. I hope you read the scripture. I hope you share this video. I hope you subscribe if you haven't subscribed. And I hope you comment and tell me what you think. Thank you very much. Ngiyabonga. Asante sana.